review. And on today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the new Fans Toys FT-17 of Hoodlum, their version of a Masterpiece style hot rod. For the package, really nice art here. You can see in the background you got Hoodlum's logo as well as a nice artistic image of him. You got his name up there, name right there, name right there. This side here has a nice artistic image as well of his actual vehicle mode. Same thing with the top. And then you come to the back of the package and you got a bit of a read up. If you'd like to read it, go ahead and pause it. You can read it by yourself. And then you got a nice image of him in his robot as well as his vehicle mode. One thing I'll say is, now I have skipped several other more recent ones like their RC I never got. But what's interesting about the package is that it's a very third-party looking package, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm just used to their figures coming in boxes that kind of look like Masterpiece style packaging. This really doesn't have that. Like I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, it just caught me off guard. And then, much like all Fans Toys figures, you do get the foam. You got FT-17 written on there. You can't read it. There, you can kind of see FT-17. And then you open it up. That's where the figure is. That's where all of his accessories are. But for the packaging on this is pretty common. This really not so much. But for the packaging on this guy, that's about it. So without further ado, let's get him out here and see how cool he actually is. Alright guys, so here we have Hoodlum open up and out of his packaging. And much like all Fans Toys figures, you do get the nice collector card and instruction booklet. The collector card here has a nice image of him, which kind of looks like more of a computer image. And it's printed on this really nice, thick plastic card. You come around to the back, you got another image of him in his robot and vehicle mode. You got some tech specs, and then you got that bio that's on the actual package. The instructions are pretty decent. There's a few steps that they do kind of gloss over and don't really elaborate, but you can see one thing that I like is that they use images here that are very easy to understand and follow. This guy, in terms of his transformation, is definitely what I feel to be an older version of what Fans Toys used to do, where it's a complex transformation, but it's not ridiculously overcomplicated like a lot of their newer releases. But obviously, we'll get into all of that here in a bit. For his other accessories, you do see that he comes with a couple. He does have this nice blade weapon, which we saw in the movie, coming in to take a closer look. Really nice paint detail on this. You can see you have a semi-translucent blue with a pretty nice fade with the silver on here. The handle and everything is all completely silver, but this, one thing I like is when you spin it, I don't know if they intended this, but as you spin it around, it kind of looks like it's got different blades that are going through that give a kind of cut look through it. It's hard to explain, but if you sit there and stare at a fan for a long time, you can kind of see the blades of the fan going around. And that's what I feel like this is replicating. So I like how they recreated that. That looks really very, very nice. He also does come with his standard handguns. These, again, very nice silver paint. You can see that they're different, but they do look very similar to the ones that Hot Rod would have carried. They're slightly more stylized, but they still look really nice. I find it interesting that they have actual holes there. It's like you could plug a blast effect in there, but you didn't get it. But I do really like the way that both of these turned out. That doesn't do anything. They can be held very easily in his hand. You can also fold both of these up, and you can see, I don't know how it's really stiff. Both of them then have a smaller little handle section, which can be plugged into the engine section here. So I guess you have weapon storage, but it's also a nice throwback to the way that the original Targetmaster version of Hot Rod was. Speaking of which, you do get his Targetmaster. Now, they don't actually give him a name in the instructions, but this is Firebolt or Offshoot, depending on how you remember them. Pretty nice by comparison to what we've gotten before. Again, really nice silver paint. You got some nice black on there. The face has a nice paint on there. I can't really get, you got these little gaps in the bottom of the feet that these little sections are supposed to tab into. It's really tough to get it lined up, so I just kind of flatten it as best as I can and leave it there. It frictions very nicely and holds its shape. Now, for comparison to a previous Firebolt, the only one that I have is the one that came with the Masterpiece Hot Rod / Rodimus, which is, what was that, MPO9 now? Jeez, it's a long time. Big difference between these two. Both of them still look really good. Obviously, I think this is a little bit more streamlined. Obviously, this is a little bit more gappy and everything. And I might have transformed this wrong because I haven't transformed this guy in forever. But I like the way that this looks. It's a much sleek kind of look to it. I do wish that there was a little bit more paint applications, like you got some nice paint detail with some red on the tips here and then on the back section, and then you got a little bit of blue right there. So I would have liked to see a little bit more added paint on there, but it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. And then obviously I'll show you the robot mode, but with this as well, you can kind of fold this forward, and then again you got a little tab right here, you can kind of see it, that will tab in, bringing in Hot Rod. You got a little rectangular section right here that if you bring that in, that handle kind of gets out of the way just enough where you can plug that down, and you can have that again a la his Targetmaster. And then showing you the regular guns, you can detach that and you can plug this in there as well. My overall concern with this would be in terms of plugging this, which has a really nice silver paint, into something that is chrome. I don't know how well the chrome will handle, but obviously you're going inside there, so it's not going to be too noticeable. The only noticeable aspect would be as you push that in there, there is some friction, and then pulling it out, I would be concerned about wearing the paint on there. That's the only thing that I would think would be detrimental to that design, but overall it's not bad. But again, we'll take a closer look at this when we do some transformations and such. And then he does come with an alternate face sculpt. Now, I have seen some people, and I'm going to come in here. This is a gorgeous face sculpt. You can see you got some nice, not really metallic blue paint for the eyes, but a really nice light blue. Kind of wish that metallic blue that they've used many, many times before was present here as well, but I'll let it slide. But you can see that you have a little bit more definition in the cheeks, a little bit more definition around the mouth and then the chin. People have said that this is meant to be Rodimus Prime, and I can see it. That's definitely a possibility, but in terms of this, they're talking about using this face sculpt with this figure in his robot mode to give kind of a classics looking Rodimus Prime. I'm going to bring in my classic figures to do a comparison on it. I don't necessarily think that it works too well as a classics Rodimus. I feel like he's too big, but whatever. You have an extra face. You can do whatever you want with it. Now, taking a look at Hoodlum here in his vehicle mode. People have complained about the proportions in this, and I don't mind it really all that much. Bringing in, zoom back, bringing in the more recent release of Hot Rod. Now, this guy does have the Repro label, so he does have a slightly different look to him, but when you look at it, this guy is definitely a lot sleeker looking. You can see that the new Hoodlum is a much bigger and wider figure, whereas the Takara one has a sleekness to it. People have complained about it. It doesn't really bother me all that much. I feel like this is a really nice recreation of how Hot Rod looked in the cartoon. He was a sleek looking Hot Rod of sorts. This guy, because of the bulk of them, and you can kind of see it when I hold them sideways like this. Obviously, this guy's a much lower to the ground vehicle than Hoodlum is. But I feel like Hoodlum does a really nice job, and unfortunately I haven't moved over my G1 collection to my new apartment. But I feel like this is a better representation of how Hot Rod looked on his G1 toy. So I don't mind that bulkiness all that much. I think that it looks pretty cool. Robot mode creates a very nice looking cartoon representation of it. So while this has a really nice cartoon representation in vehicle mode, robot mode, he kind of deviates a little bit more. There's aspects about him in robot mode, and we'll get to it, that I really am not a super fan of. Whereas this one, the way he looked in his robot mode is why I wanted to get this guy. So I don't mind too much the bulk of him. You can see that the colors look really nice. They're very similar. You do have really nice chrome on here. One thing I'll mention is, and mine has started to do it, you can kind of see, like right now, if I zoom in here, let me come in here, you can definitely see the chrome is wearing off on this guy. You can see it like right here, which is definitely unfortunate. There have been paint issues with this guy as well, so I guess you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But the chrome does look really nice. I really like the bluish tint here for the window. Obviously, you do have the engine. Really nice detail with the hood section here. Nice translucent bits here for the headlights. I like the spoiler. It's nice and big. You got some nice detail molded into it. You can actually, I don't know why you would want to do it because you can't really sit anybody in there, but you can open that, which is something that you couldn't do on that Takara one, but the Takara one, you had the opening chest, but whatever. And that's a nice little addition. You come around to the back, not terrible, not too pretty either, but it's not terrible, I would say. And then this area here does get a little bit ugly when you're looking at it from the side, but I mean, in general, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I give it a solid, well, I don't usually give numbers or anything, but I give this guy a solid, I would say in terms of recreating the toy look, a solid 7.5. I mean, normally I don't do the number rating thing, but I feel that it kind of articulates that I do like the way that the guy looks. He does have rubber tires and die-cast. That's the other thing that I noticed. There's a good heft to this guy. He rolls well. The transformation is pretty good. You don't have a lot of stuff here scraping along the bottom. The other one had a hard time kind of getting everything lined up where things weren't scraping. But I do really, really like the way that this guy turned out. And like I said, the transformation on him is actually pretty easy by comparison to a lot of the newer releases by Vance Toys, which is why I say that I feel like this is a older design that they're finally bringing out. And we have seen teases of this guy for years. So it makes sense that it would be an older design. And I really do wish they would go back to, because it makes him enjoyable to transform, whereas a lot of the new ones really aren't. Now, for his transformation, it's actually fairly simple to do. Well, when you compare it to some recent releases of Vance Toys. But there are some aspects that you do want to be careful with, and some parts of the transformation that are a little bit tricky to do, especially when you're going back into this vehicle mode. Specifically here in the front section, but we'll cover that in a bit. First, what you want to do is kind of loosen up these side bits here. They tab in 2 points. You got a little connection point up here and one right down here. Just kind of fold that away from the body a little bit. It'll kind of loosen up everything. Then come around here to the, I don't even know what you would call this front section. And there's 2 pieces here. You got the vehicle front and then you got the robot chest. What you want to be, and they kind of sandwich together, kind of split this. Just like that. That's going to separate, and that'll give you a little bit of clearance right down here where you can take this, kind of push this down, and it does get, like I said, a little bit tricky to do, but there we go. Just kind of push that down and rotate that away from the body. So again, pull that down and rotate that around. Just kind of get those out of the way for right now. You can take this entire section, lift this kind of back, and then fold all this, well, if you can hold on to it, fold this whole little bit out. Well, okay, let's take this first. You have this section right here, kind of fold that and then rotate that around. This is all going to collapse up here, so might as well do that now. Fold this, well, bring this down. These little pieces here, which can be tricky to get to if you don't have a little thing to pull it out, so let's use a little card. There we go. So fold these little pieces out. See, can I get that one? No? Oh, wait, there's a little ledge right there. There we go. There we are. Fold that around, and then bring this up and over like that. That's going to just kind of collapse all this down get that out of the way. This whole thing just, it likes collapsing, but you want to get his head to come out, which can be a little bit tricky. So pull out his head. There we go. Just pull that whole section out like that. This whole bit right here, you then want to take and slide these arms, get this out of the way, these little pieces, collapse these down and inside just like that. You can actually take this whole entire assembly here, once you get that kind of out of the way, take this whole bit. This part here has been controversial to say the least. Leave it straight. Do not bend this piece. You rotate this around without bending it, you will not scrape this. A lot of people are like folding it up and then rotating it around. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to scrape up his chest. But when they do that, it ends up scratching that. So don't do that. Just leave it down. And when you rotate it around like that, you're not going to have any damage to that. So that's nice. Okay, so let me see if I can, there we go. Yeah, that'll let you kind of fold that forward a little bit so you can spin that around. There you go. So now you have it around like so, and you're gonna see that the entire front section here is kind of the bottom now of the car. So leave that like that, bring this whole piece up, and all of this here, this all kind of has to line up on the inside of his chest. Let me see if I can kind of show you that. You want to get these hinged just right. And then this is going to be tricky to see, but okay, you can actually see it. There's a little grooves on the metal section here that the arms have to, like the shoulder area, has to kind of fit into. So this has to get rotated around. I know I'm very close in, but it'll make sense when you see it. So there is that. Hopefully. There we go. So now you guys can see that these little shoulder sections here are slotted in between these grooves. That's where you're going to want those. It's more than likely not going to stay in that position, so you're going to have to eventually fix it, but just kind of hold it there for now, and then you can bring this whole assembly up, bring this over, and this is going to come over as well. But first, what you need to do is actually take this back section, extend this out, just like so. So then bring this all down, like this whole thing, again, is going to flop around and kind of get out of alignment, but just kind of hold one in, kind of move the other one there, hold it there, take this, bring this up, and then this is going to kind of rest along, when you fold it, it's going to rest along the back section. Kind of looks like it's meant to actually tab in and lock onto it, but it doesn't seem to really do that very well. Let me see here. So you're going to bring this up, and these little pieces are going to kind of hook over. This is going to be his collar area, but it doesn't really look like it does too well. So just bring the head forward and push that down. That'll lock everything and kind of hold everything where it needs to be. So it is what it is. Bring this up and over. You have this entire back section here now, then just brings all this to the front. Kind of push that forward, kind of angle these a little bit. You can see what's going on here with his chest. Let me come back a little bit more and come up, and you can see that the upper body is pretty much done. I'll keep these posted in. There we go. These arms, I really like what they did with them. It's really cool. So take this, extend that out, and then you take the little chrome bit right here. There's just enough clearance to get it to fold in. It was forward, now bring it all the way back like that. This arm section then has a separate hinge thing here, which comes up and then comes across the top. When you have it like that, you open up the hand area, fold this around. Let me come around here to the back so you can see how it slides in there. Fold that whole hand down like that, and then bring the whole forearm back up. When you have that there, it's kind of, again, it's kind of tricky to do. But here, let's not collapse that just yet. Fold the hand all the way out, and there you go. Bring that around. Keep the hand flat there, and then bring that around, and then hinge this. It does get a little bit tricky to get the hand, but it's just like an accordion kind of thing. That's one thing, like I was talking about. At least with this guy, it doesn't feel impossible to transform. There we go. And then just flatten that just like so. Did I knock this? I probably knocked this whole thing loose, but you know, it is what it is. I feel like the shoulder section down here got detached. So again, we're gonna play with this, kind of lift this, fold this down, and bring that back. And then fold this guy here, and then rotate his hand around. Kind of put it all the way forward, then flatten the fist. Fold this down, and then hinge this back and in. There you go. Bring that down like that. And then take these, you can kind of see that one already shifted forward. Just take this, slide that back on both sides, just like that. Come down here to the legs. Legs are very, very simple. You split them. Oh, I'm sorry. You take this bit here, fold this back and up. Take these little pieces, they were down like that. Fold those up like so. Open these back portions like that. His legs will, and separate this from the side. You then want to take, you got a little post right here. You want to take this and you want to push that up for robot mode. So again, push that little piece up, and then these legs will extend down. Make sure you pull them all the way. That will release the foot on both sides. And you got the little heel inside here. Again, not very good with being able to pull things out. I'm sorry, Jurassic World card, but you need to be used. There we go. And then take this foot section, you're going to rotate this around, and this is going to come down like that. You had the tire out to the side, fold it in, and then fold that down. Fold that down, and then bring that in. That locks together right there. So again, we're going to pull the foot out, keep that out to the side. You can then rotate the foot around. You got a little tab right here that's going to lock into the ankle. So bring that down, then take this, bring that down, rotate. Oh, sorry, bring that down, and then connect these two little pieces together. Bring out his heel. There we go. Just like that. Kind of look around here and kind of futz with him a little bit. Make sure that everything is collapsed proper. I don't feel like I had that. Yeah, maybe I do. Maybe I do. Bring that over. All right. Just like that. Just like that. Kind of position them. This seems to be flopping out a lot more than it used to. So that's something I'm going to have to take a look at. But getting him situated, there you have him. And you have yourself one seriously good looking hot rod in his robot mode. And while, yeah, you could see that the transformation does get a little bit finicky in some areas, it's not too terrible. And the result is a really good looking robot mode. One that, for me, is substantial enough looking that he will be replacing my official Takara one. Now, one thing, I mean, I have noticed that, like, this is not staying up there very well. I'm going to try seeing if that's just a looseness of the screw, which happens with fans' toy stuff all the time. The other thing that I don't know how much I like, this is, I don't remember it actually showing it in the instructions. It's just, this is split apart and can separate. The problem, though, is it doesn't keep this on here. Like, you can see it wiggles a lot, so I'm just gonna collapse that back and keep it like that, and that keeps it from wiggling around a lot more, so it gives a little bit more of a sturdy kind of feel. But that is kind of problematic because that's one of the aspects that I really like about it. The tapered torso, it just looks so much better. For a comparison, let's get it over and done with. Now, again, this guy has the Repro label sticker, so he does look a little bit better, but in general, the just shape of him is, there we go, so much nicer on the Fans Toys 1. The blockiness of this just really is ugly. It also, you can see, jets out where this one nicely kind of slopes in. The backpack, I think, is done a lot better on the Fans Toys one. You can see all this junk up here. I mean, you don't really have any of that really there at all. People have talked about these weird little notches. They don't bother me all that much. I mean, they're noticeable. You can see them, but I don't think they stick out all that bad. One of the other aspects that a lot of people didn't like on this guy was the visible screw holes right here, which really should have been painted, honestly. That doesn't have that, but you come around to the back and you can see that the back arm here on the Takara one does clean up a little bit nicer, whereas this one has those bits right there. But I don't think that looks all that bad. I do like the overall shape of the Fans Toys little chrome bits here. I like how they kind of curve. This is just more straight than anything. I do like how they don't extend as far down as the Takara one. I think that's an improvement as well. Face sculpt, both of them look really good. Both are just about perfect, I would say, in terms of recreating Hot Rod. Now, like I said, if you wanted to, and this is where I don't know really why you would want to, but you can swap out the head. You just come around here to the back. You got a little screw here on the back of the head that you unscrew that, and then you put this on there. It gives them a Rodimus Prime sort of look, which I guess works, but when you compare it, and I'm going to come back here, when you compare it to some, I guess, classic sort of figures, I guess if you wanted to, you could, but I definitely feel like he would be too tall as Rodimus Prime. So setting these kind of off to the side and then bringing in the Siege Optimus Prime, I don't get this guy as a classics looking Hot Rod. Now, maybe Masterpiece, but I mean, honestly, I don't even feel like it works as a Masterpiece Rodimus because, again, he's way too short. He grew exponentially to about Optimus Prime size, so the scale here works, even though this figure is still crap. I just don't feel like this really does anything to help make this guy look like Rodimus Prime. But he is perfectly suitable as Hot Rod. The overall look of the figure, as you can see, really does look nice and just evokes more of that look of the character, especially here with this. This is one of the biggest selling points for me. It just looks so much nicer. Again, you get a very good, solid, high-quality feel with the die cast in them. Well, and while, yeah, still a little bit tough to transform, he is a much easier figure than what we've gotten previously. Now, I didn't forget, but you do got this guy. For his transformation, really, you just kind of fold his legs down, split this, and then rotate here. It's really stiff. The paint really kind of thickens things up. So rotate there, like that. Fold these arms down, and spin that around here at the shoulder. Kind of just open that up like that. Take this, fold this all the way back like that. Just kind of sit that there and bring these down like so. And now the ball joint on this is a little bit kind of loose. It pops out fairly easily when I'm moving mine around, but It's not bad. Now, comparison with the other one, let's get that guy transformed rock quick. Hey, how is everybody? How are you guys? I feel like we don't talk that much. Do you guys come to my live shows? How many of you come to my live shows? Do you do it each time I do a live show, or what? I feel like I talk more to you guys on those. So here we go. Get that around. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So again, this is the official Masterpiece one that came with that hot rod. Again, I would have liked to see a little bit more color thrown onto this guy. Overall, I think they both look pretty darn good. Let me kind of zoom in here. It's probably going to want to focus more on Rodimus in the background. But I feel like the Fans Toys one just takes it a little bit further and gives a much better Masterpiece look. This one kind of just feels like a Legends figure. Honestly, this one has some nice paint. You got some nice molded in detail. The overall engineering is a little bit better. So it is what it is. But you do got this guy. Now, for his articulation, I'm going to go on Hot Rod or Hoodlum here in a minute. You do have just the swivel here at the head. You have a ball joint at the main part of the shoulder, and then you have a hinge for a lot of range of motion. It's mostly for the transformation, but you can, lift it up like that. You can, lift it down like that, whatever you want to do, forward and back. You got a ball joint at the elbow as well, so you can get a nice rotation there. But then at the lower section, you got two joints. The lower one is a hinge one, so good range of motion. You do, I thought you had waist rotation. Let me kind of get this. I thought maybe you did. Yeah, you do have a waist swivel, which is nice. Get that kind of back up there. Then you have ball joints here for the hips. One thing that I would say, though, is because of how short, or I shouldn't say short, but how tight everything is in there, you don't get a lot of forward motion without that upper edge rubbing on the bottom section of the body. So I would be worried that forcing that is going to scrape the paint right there. So just be careful with that. But you do get a little bit of range of motion before you have to start forcing things. You do have a hinge at the upper part of the knee. And then again, you got a ball joint at the lower part, which also allows you to rotate, as you can see with the transformation. His arm fell off again. Do these do anything? I don't know if he's got anything in his ankles, but oh yeah, you got a little bit of play there at the ankle as well. And he's got a special added bonus gimmick of a detachable arm. So there is, I don't even think they actually gave him a name in the instructions, but there he is. Now for Hot Rod or Hoodlum, now the ball joint, or the neck section here is on a ball joint, except you don't really get much range of motion. If you pop that head off, you'll see that it is a ball joint, but it doesn't really do anything. Let me come in here. I want to zoom up so you can see he does have that visor gimmick that the other Masterpiece one had, where you just lift this up, and this is tricky to get to, but you can fold this down and you Decepticons, and you can have that. I feel like that's a little bit too light of a color, but I like that they included it. I think it works pretty good. It's obviously not on the Rodimus head, which makes sense. And then you just close that. Works pretty good. So primarily you're just going to get a rotation here at the neck. The shoulders here, you do have to be a little bit tricky. I mean, mine have, it's a fan toy squeak. You do have that. You got limited outward motion, especially if you have everything tabbed in proper the way that it is. That's about as far out as you're going to get it, which is okay, I guess, but it is a little bit more limited. There's not much else that you can really do. You can rotate it, and then there's not really a butterfly joint or anything. That would have been nice. That's something that the Takara one did have, so a little bit better articulation in the shoulders for the Takara one. He does rotate at the elbow, and then he's got a little bit more than 90-degree bend at the elbow, like a hair more, like not a ton else. The wrists do rotate. They also do open, as you can see, as part of the transformation. But all the fingers are fused together at the lower portion, so it's only hinged at the main set of the knuckles, nothing at the thumb or anything of that nature. And then you come down here to the waist. You got a nice waist rotation. It doesn't really have a abdomen crunch like that Takara one. So again, the articulation is a little bit better on the Takara one. It's not to say that this guy can't get in some good poses or anything. Just you do have some extra joints on that Takara one, which does give some points to that guy. He also doesn't have an opening chest for the Matrix or anything. That was something that the Takara one did really well as well. You do have hip skirts that move forward and back so that you can get some nice range of motion here at the hips. Forward, back, in, out. You got a rotation as well. Come down to the knee itself. You got a little bit more than a 90-degree bend there. You come down to the ankle. You do have ankle tilt about yay far, not a lot because you got these little bits that kind of bump in the way. And then you can move it forward and back for some walking poses. So, a lot of articulation, and the articulation isn't bad. It's just a lot of people are going to be comparing, and then when you do move things around, you may knock things loose up here, which I think that's just because of how tight these joints are. I mean, they're not super tight, but that friction does make things a little bit complicated with all this stuff up here in his kind of shoulder area. People have complained about the breakup here. I'm okay with that, especially since the Takara one had such an ugly backpack. I think that they kind of offset it. There are definitely aspects of this where this one is better than the Takara one, and the Takara one is better than this one. There's definitely a lot of that in this. Like I said, this is not as pretty as the Takara one, but this is a lot prettier than the Takara one. So it all comes down to personal preference, honestly. And for me, again, I gotta take a look at that. It's just the aesthetic of him in his robot mode and the much more tapered look for his torso. It just, in my opinion, looks much nicer. And I'm very happy to have this guy in my collection. And now for his transformation back, and I really hope I don't fuck it up, but reviewers, I'm gonna, just some real talk, we always hope that we don't fuck things up, and when we aren't transforming it on screen, we're usually pretty good, and then we record it, and we mess up something. So first, as you can see, I opened these bits here, and I folded those out. They were all the way back like that. They're gonna come forward, but kind of keep them out like that for right now. Come around to these arm sections. This can get a little bit tricky. First, you want to kind of open the hand a little bit. You want it slightly open like that, and then we're going to hinge that out. Again, the arm section here does get a little bit tricky, so pull that away, fold this kind of through that little gap as you extend the arm, and then take this entire section here, and you're going to rotate his hand back, and then the fingers, as you can see, kind of slide in through that little space. Kind of put that right there, and then you have this little bit here now forward, and then take this, fold that forward just like that. So let's do that on the other side again. So again, we're going to open up the hand a little bit. We're going to kind of hinge this. It's on a double hinge. Kind of open that a little, and it's also fairly stiff. So we're going to bring that up, and then we're going to fold that forward, extending that like that. Kind of take this section, fold that around, and then bring the hand all the way back and slot the fingers into those little groove areas, just like so. Come around here to the front. If that didn't slide down, slide it down. And then take this. You can fold this forward if you want. There's some little tab sections here. We'll play with all that little bit here in a while, but just kind of extend that down. And now he's got like giant gorilla arms. Come to this back section. You can take this and pull this whole bit away from the body. Just kind of loosen and pull that away. Just like that. Kind of leave it like that just for now, just to keep things easy. If you had that extended, you want to collapse that, and then lift this and rotate these around to the inside, just like so. Come back up here to the head. You want to take the head, detach it, and that will loosen this bit up. You can then take this, lift this, and again, don't fold it all the way forward when you're rotating it. Leave it flat, and then rotate it down and around. Then we can take the head, we can tuck this. Well, let's see. Actually, we're going to leave this up because that creates some clearance here for us. So separate all this and then you kind of pull this away. These arms, they're tricky. Just kind of get them like that. Get that, and then you can rotate this entire assembly around if you get it to clear all this stuff, which can be tricky, but there you go. Pull that around like that. All these arm bits are going to be flopping all over. Just kind of leave it like so. We'll play with that here in a bit. And then again, take this, rotate this around by keeping it flat, and you won't have any problems with the chest. I would also wonder, a lot of people are probably going to put like an Autobot logo there, I would imagine. So I wonder if that will cause any problems with that. Who knows? Keep that just like that. Come to this back section. You want to lift this, and now you're going to try and put his head underneath here. Oh, turn it sideways, and then fit it underneath there. It fits in there a lot easier if you turn it sideways. I don't think I had it turned sideways initially. Bring this around. Now, there will be a problem that you're going to be seeing here in a minute, but I'll get to that. Come around here to the back. Take this little piece, fold this all the way back. That allows you to bring that whole section down and reach in here with fingernails if you have them. If you don't, you can use a Dino Rivals collector card. Fold that up just like that. That's going to make seats form. And then bring all this back. Take this section here. You got a little hinge and a sliding gimmick here. So just pull this down and then rotate that around like so. And then put that down like that. You can see him coming together fairly decently. Come down to these legs. You want to take the heel, tuck that in, and then open these bits up like that. Open that up like that. This little section right here, you need to push this. That will allow you to rotate this all the way around and tab in on the side of his shin area. So you got that little bit right here. So again, push this through, extends that, rotate that around. It's on a double hinge, and collapse that in. Then leaving these up, you have to then rotate the foot down here. So get this out of the way, rotate this around, and then this whole section comes up in under here. You have to make sure the thigh section is actually hollow in there. So when you rotate this, bring this around, you have to make sure that you keep the feet in a position kind of like that, where the feet are going to slide into that cavity. So see if I got that right. Yep, perfect. So slide that up and in, but you see you want that foot to go in through there. So just like so. And then bring these bits down. You can then connect these legs right here like that. Keep that all the way down. And then bring this section down here. And it's all going to kind of sit together. You want to make sure that this little piece kind of goes alongside the little red bit. Do that on both sides. Make sure that that's collapsed nicely. There we go. Bring this down. These arms are going to get rotated around. Keep this bit a little bit detached. And then these pieces come out. Now, this is one thing that I've noticed. Vance Toys does this a lot, and I just dropped it. It fell on the ground. But a lot of times, little bits aren't glued in or set in properly, and that's definitely a problem with this one. That just pops off. I'll probably just be able to glue that in, but it is annoying that I have to do that. And then bring these around. Now, this part does get problematic. You have this little nub, the one that I was talking about here, has to lock in underneath right in here, and then this has to go along the side. It isn't easy to get lined up, that's for sure. So bring all of this around, and it usually helps if you don't connect this bit right here. Oh, you can already see right there, a little bit of paint chip on mine. I don't know honestly from what, but you gotta kind of swoop in from the side. There we go. That side there. So the trick is kind of go on an angle if you can. Go on an angle where you're gonna get this underneath, and like I said, it does get a little bit tricky to do this. Kind of on an angle. There we go. Angle. There we are. So it's fit in there now. Now all you have to do is kind of straighten all this stuff out. So again, then you can collapse this up, locking that down, and keep all this stuff collapsed down as far as it can go. And then like I said, you got two little tabs. You got one here that's going to collapse in on the side. Just kind of have to line that up, feel where that goes, and then you have another one down here at the bottom. So just push that in like that. Do that on this side as well. Push that in. Push that in. Do I have... what's happening? There we go. I'm trying to see. This doesn't feel like it's completely collapsed in. So there we go. Then again, if you didn't have these, you can bring these down, and these also have a little kind of connecting point right down here along the side, around to the back. Make sure that that is kind of there. Kind of straighten these wheels out. They have a tendency to want to go inward, but if you just straighten them, they're pretty good. I'm going to have to get that little extra piece that fell on the ground to put right there, but when you're done, there you have Hoodlum back in his vehicle mode. And just kind of showing you, this is the little piece that popped off. Like I said, you got these little holes here that has little pegs on the underside here that you just kind of fit in there and line that up and push that in. I mean, it sits in there. I mean, it's not coming out, but it doesn't sit in there securely. So I probably will put a little bit of glue on there just to hold that in. But all in all, I'm really happy with this. A lot of recent Fans Toy stuff, as I mentioned, I haven't gotten because they're just not fun to transform. I got Cup, and that just kind of put me off with a lot of things. I had their Apache. I could never figure out, honestly, how to do that transformation. And I never even bothered getting their RC just because I had heard that too was kind of a very problematic figure. So this one I was definitely on the fence about, but I love the overall aesthetic of his robot mode. Vehicle mode wise here, I think still does look really nice. I do feel with the kind of more bulky look here, it does evoke a more G1 hot rod toy, which doesn't bother me really all that much. It's a little bit different than what we got with the Takara one, and that Takara one does have a nice cartoon look, but really falls short when it comes to the robot mode. This guy's robot mode, which is predominantly what I have all my Masterpiece figures in, really does look very nice. Just the overall proportions really do a better job of bringing that character to life. There's a good heavy, solid feel to it. You got some nice chrome, you got some die-cast paint on here. Does look really nice. As I mentioned, I do have a little bit of scraping right there in the very front. I don't know what that's from. And then people are having issues with this. If you don't extend this up as I showed, you shouldn't have any problems. So just be aware of that. And then the other thing is the engineering on this guy really is nice. It has a fairly complex transformation, but it's not ridiculously overcomplicated like a lot of Fans Toys figures are. And it still makes this guy fairly enjoyable to transform. As I mentioned, I feel like this is an older design just because we have seen this guy kind of floating around for a long time. So I don't know if that's in part to a new designer that we're getting more kind of overcomplicated figures. But I do wish they would go back to this. This guy turned out really very, very good. And as I said, good enough that he will be replacing my Takara one in my display. So all that being said, if Hoodlum here is a figure that you'd like to add to your collection, he is available right now at Big Bad Toy Store. So all you have to do for that is click on the link down in the video description. You'll go to BBTS where you can check out availability on this guy, as well as the rest of the wide range of Fans Toys figures. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. Remember, if you like this video, I would really appreciate your support, guys, simply by hitting that little thumbs up button. That one small gesture really does go a long way towards helping me out, and I would really appreciate it. Also, a very big thank you if you made it all the way to the end of this review. Another way that you can really help support my channel is making sure that you watch a video all the way through. And if you did that, thank you. And a huge shout out to all of my patrons, who through their continued support, now more than ever, help to make reviews like this possible. And finally, remember, the real trouble with the world is that too many people grow up. Thank you for watching and taking the time to be a kid.